I'm guessing that wasn't your first choice.
But I'm a big believer in second chances.
Do you have a visual? Over. Let's do this together!
Pacific Rim, rated PG-13, 10 p.m. Thursday, everywhere Friday.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cinema Arcade. This is the podcast about movies, video games, and the sparks that fly when those worlds collide. My name is Steve Guntley, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to bring the mood down right off the top here, guys. I regret to inform you that due to the ongoing government shutdown, the apocalypse has been canceled. I'm so sorry. I know we were all looking forward to it.
I put my taxes towards that.
No, I'm sorry. We're canceling the apocalypse. I'm really sorry about it. Yeah. The bummer part is that we're recording this episode like 2 weeks in advance or something like that, and that'll probably still be a relevant joke. Yeah, the government shutdown will probably still be going on.
A full fucking month.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What is this world?
Oh, we should unleash some giant mutants and some giant robots on it, because this week we're talking about Pacific Rim, Guillermo Del Toro's loving throwback to giant monster movie era of Japan. It's quite a blast. But who is joining me here today? Who's in the drift with me? Who's on the other half of my hemisphere?
I am mecha lover Justin. I enjoy watching giant robots fight fucking anything. I don't care.
Okay,
Realize
wait.
that
We need
mecha
to
lover sounds real bad.
and fight fucking anything also sounded. I think we need to. I think there's some Freudian slips happening here.
Some interesting.
I'm still trying to figure out what the first one is.
Getting some guesses
brain
as
too
to
innocent?
why Justin chose this movie for his Justin's pick. Yeah,
I like
getting some more
giant
hints.
robots.
And who's that emerging from the breach at the bottom of the ocean?
It is the crime that Idris Elba was never a James Bond.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame.
It's a
Honestly,
shame.
he outgrew it.
I don't know. He's so good. I still think he'd be really good.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to see him act in anything. He's so good. He's so good.
We
Good
haven't
news.
we haven't brought this up yet, but your nickname is quite similar to James Bond. Have you ever thrown your hat in the ring officially? Have you ever said, "Hey"?
They like to hire British actors, and I'm American.
Hey,
A
you
specific
lived
thing.
there for a good chunk.
I
You
did
lived
live there for a
while.
good chunk.
J-Ben, I also want to let you know, good news. Idris Elba still acts in things.
I know he does,
He
but
does. I just saw him in House of Dynamite, the new Catherine Bigelow movie. He plays the president of the
how was
United
that
States.
movie? It seemed depressing to me, so I didn't watch it.
It's interesting. I think it's got some structural problems, but I kind of like a good like docudrama. I like a good like lots of people in suits using jargon at each other, and like
Were you a fan of The West Wing?
I was a big fan of The West Wing. So this is kind of like The West Wing if nuclear war were in the midst, but also not quite as witty. Either way, I know your mileage may vary on that one, but I think we can all agree, at least the three of us at this table, that Pacific Rim is a damn blast, and I'm excited you chose it. But I do want to know, Justin, why did you choose this one? What about Pacific Rim sang out to you?
Okay, well, I've already hinted at it, but I really like giant robots.
Absolutely.
And fighting things.
This is right in your corridor, like right when it. Did you see this when it came out?
Oh, very shortly after.
Okay.
I think. What was I doing? Was this 2013?
Yeah.
I graduated high school around here, so I was I think I was working overnights when this came out. So
Okay.
it was hard to make work in my schedule, but I definitely saw it not too long after it hit home DVD. But I grew up watching a lot of like Gundam and stuff, and so this was just like, oh, so cool. Such a good time.
Like Gundam and Evangelion and things like that are big blind spots for me. Like I don't watch a lot of anime in general, but like those are things I just don't really have any kind of engagement with.
The first erotica that I ever read was Gundam fan fiction.
That tracks.
Passed to me on the back of a. I don't know. I didn't watch Gundam. We were in the back of the bus, and I had this friend Karen who was obsessed with Gundam, obsessed. And so she would write and print off Gundam fan fiction, and she's like, Jen, you got to read this. This is amazing. And it was just like two boys falling in love over a robot. It was very homoerotic.
Oh, it wasn't like the robots with like pneumatic drills or anything like that.
No.
It was the pilots.
The pilots.
Gundam is essentially Japanese soap operas with robots.
Okay.
You will have, it's like my favorite tropes ever, where it's like they have a big fight and like the main like bad guy who's conflicted dies, and then like 2 episodes later, a brand new, like, super powerful Gundam shows up. It kicks everyone's ass, and they reveal it's the dead guy. He didn't actually die.
Sure.
He's
Okay.
back,
All right.
He's kicking ass this time, and he has more inner conflict than he did before.
Well,
and it's
he's
just
back.
like this consistent thing. There's a lot of like bromances and homoerotic romances that are like happening, but like they never really. It's like clearly there's romantic tension between these characters, but we're never gonna explore it.
Right.
It was such
Other than
a
the
wild
smashing
ride.
of robots.
Yes.
Smashing of robots.
The Greco-Roman robot wrestling that you're getting on there that's not implying much of anything. Although it might be swords and guns. I genuinely
It's
don't
largely
know.
swords and guns.
Okay, but those are phallic
some
enough.
Axes.
So yeah,
Some axes.
Okay, all right, I could see it. Yeah, I mean, I came to this movie more as a Guillermo Del Toro fan than as a fan of like giant robots or anything like that. But I am a sucker for a monster movie, particularly a gigantic monster. I love it when we can adequately capture the size and scope of like a Godzilla type monster. And it's something that so many movies fail at. And I think the real strong point of Pacific Rim is that they get the scale of everything right. Everything feels heavy and slow and beefy. And like you feel those punches. Like
it feels like we're seeing early like fighting robots. We're not getting like in Gundam you get like super fast, super polished machines, and here you're getting like the blue collar version of like once they finish fighting, this thing's gonna go like put a building together or something. At least that's like what you feel. It's
right.
Like, this thing is they're very like sturdy and stout.
And the thing,
heavy.
The thing that's easy to forget about this is that this movie takes place in 2025. All
Hell
right,
yeah.
like this is even at the time, this is not like a wildly distant future for developing these gigantic like robot monsters. So they still have a bit of like modern day industrial kind of sheen to them. They feel like these imperfect designs.
Yes, I think that's the word, imperfect.
Yeah, like in like prototypes in a big way. So.
Well, and they feel in danger.
Yes,
I think that's a
exactly.
really
They're
important
vulnerable.
thing because, like, a lot of the things with the Gundam, you don't feel like necessarily the danger. Versus Pacific Rim, you actually feel like these kaiju can rip them apart.
Absolutely,
and it's that much more on equal footing, and it like there's a lot more back and forth, and who's gonna win is unknown.
I mean, I'm gonna go to bat for this movie as an incredibly smart, stupid movie. I think this is about as smart as you can get with your dumbass movie as possible. Like, I think they're really putting a lot of thought and care and effort into the goofy rules of this movie, and that's why it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like empty calories. This movie, it feels fun, but
like
it feels nourishing.
Transformers.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
yeah,
I don't know. This movie is deeply flawed. I love it. It was one of my sick day movies, along with Ever After with Drew Barrymore.
Sure.
Because that's what you need when you have the flu: robots and Cinderella. And I think that this movie is like, so I've seen this movie a lot.
Yeah.
But we have I love there are things about it that are just plain silly that I love. Like, I love the fact that the the head pair have no sexual tension at all. They have like
We're gonna go into that.
negative sexual tension, and that they don't kiss at the end, and they remain platonic friends is like one of my favorite things. But it also intrinsically is like really silly.
I will disagree with the total lack of sexual tension because I think it's a factor, but it's not the driving factor of the movie. And we'll get into this, but this movie has kind of helped shift the framework for film criticism, and particularly how female characters are depicted. I'll get into that in a minute. Let's learn a little bit about Pacific Rim, which was released July 12th, 2013. It's directed by Guillermo Del Toro. It's written by Del Toro and Travis Beacham, and it stars Charlie Hunnam, Idris Elba, Rinko Kikuchi, Charlie Day, Bern Gorman, Rob Kaczynski, Max Martini, Clifton Collins Jr., and Ron Perlman. This is our first time talking about Guillermo Del Toro on this show. The great Mexican filmmaker has been making a name for himself as a genre visionary, I would say, since his 1993 debut, Cronos, which offered a very fresh, low-budget kind of take, a different spin on like vampire movies. Did you see Cronos?
Yeah, of course I've seen
good,
Cronos.
Right?
It's so
Cronos
good.
Rules. It holds up.
For the listeners, that question was only directed towards Jane Van, and it was a very physical thing. I felt it, and at no point did I think it was incorrectly aimed.
It was not meant as a slight in any way.
It was a question that was just not meant for me because the answer was already no.
I just know it's a fairly obscure.
Never heard of that movie.
It's a fairly obscure Spanish language movie that came out 4 years before you were born. So you're probably not heard of it.
Don't know Spanish.
That's fair. They do put subtitles on it for you. And Ron Perlman is in it, by the way. Ron Perlman's second
Tell
build.
the story.
But Del Toro...
It'll make me look bad because I don't know Spanish.
Del Toro, after Cronos, he crossed over to America with the 1997 horror movie Mimic, which fucking rules. If people haven't seen Mimic, it's a giant bug stalking the sewer or the subway tunnels of New York City, and it's awesome. It wasn't a massive hit, but it was well regarded, and it's really fun. I think it was 2001's film The Devil's Backbone that kind of made people look at Del Toro a little differently, because that movie's pretty incredible. It's set in an orphanage during the Spanish Civil War, and it's a ghost story that kind of contrasts otherworldly horrors with real-life atrocities. It didn't get a huge release here in the States, but it was like a big awards favorite. It's become like a cult classic. And I think it's one of those movies that's just like, oh, no, this guy is not just like Flash. This guy is not just kind of like genre touchstones. This guy's got something to say, and he's like a real filmmaker. So people started paying a little more attention to him. He swung a little bit back to the States when he directed the sequel to Blade, Blade 2. We will be talking about that on a future episode. And that movie's incredible. He continued to cement his reputation over here by directing the way better than it had to be adaptation of Hellboy, which was a small box office hit back in 2004. The real turning point for Del Toro comes in 2006 with one of my very favorite movies of all time, Pan's Labyrinth, which I think kind of builds off of Devil's Backbone in a really interesting way. It is also set during the Spanish Civil War. It's from the perspective of like an orphaned girl, and it's like highly imaginative, but it's got these incredible visuals, these unbelievable monster designs. Everybody, if you haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth, you just absolutely see Pan's Labyrinth. It's kind of one of those absolute touchstone movies.
One day I'll see either of the Labyrinth movies.
Yeah,
Labyrinth-related movies.
We'll make you watch one for the show at least.
Okay.
But yeah, that movie shot to a bunch of like best of the year lists. It was nominated for 7 Oscars. It won 3 of them. Like, he was kind of off to the races at this point. And that's sort of the problem. Like his career kind of stalled out after this because he had a Hellboy sequel, which is way better than the first one, but it kind of didn't really take off here. And then he just kind of started attaching himself to everything. Like every week you would read a new rumor about what Guillermo Del Toro is working on. Oh, he's doing a Star Wars movie. He's doing a Harry Potter movie. He's doing Doctor Strange. He's doing James Bond. He's doing all of these other things. He got really close to making a movie called In the Mountains of Madness, which is based on an H.P. Lovecraft story. It was going to be a $150 million epic horror movie starring Tom Cruise. And the studio got cold feet and pulled the funding for that because horror movies, they're done at a budget, right? Like you need to make them small so that they'll make money. But the one thing he ultimately did choose was The Hobbit. So this is kind of forgotten, but Guillermo Del Toro was working on the Hobbit movie for probably like 3.5 years. So that's why we get this big stretch between Hellboy 2 and Pan's Labyrinth, is because he was tied up in Middle-earth. He was down in New Zealand, like, shooting this movie. And there were multiple delays, including MGM, the studio, going bankrupt. And after 3 years, he finally just had to walk away because he's been saying no to so many different projects. Peter Jackson would come in and finish those movies. And Del Toro had to pivot. So all of this is important just to establish where he was when Pacific Rim came around.
I had to guess, Steve. What 3 Guillermo Del Toro movies had I seen besides Pacific Rim?
Oh, boy. Okay. Hellboy's probably one of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think you've seen Blade 2. I would be surprised if you saw Shape of Water or Nightmare Alley. Maybe Pinocchio?
No.
No, interesting. Okay.
It's Hellboy 2, and Crimson Peak.
You saw Crimson Peak. Interesting. Okay. Crimson Peak.
Mickey made me watch it. It was a palate cleanser after a horror movie that one of the ones, there's a few of them that kind of got to me or Nick, and we were just like, we need something to watch after this. And we're like, Crimson Peak.
That movie's gorgeous. It's
fun,
spooky-ish. It's gothic. It's
gothic.
very Was that kind of your speed, J-Ben? Have you seen Crimson Peak? Yeah. I figured you're a fan of gothic horror. I feel like you'd be on board with that one. So so all of these different projects fell aside, and Pacific Rim was the one that he chose. I'd heard rumors that he was working on something called Pacific Rim, but at this point, it's like I knew not to trust any rumors about like what he's working on.
What in the world would that mean going into it? Like, Pacific Rim has no connotation that comes to mind.
No, not
other
really.
Than an ocean? Is this the beach?
Right. Yeah. They had no idea. I had no idea what that.
Volcanoes.
Exactly. Yeah. It could be all of that. So, yeah, it wasn't really...
Geothermic disturbances.
Tectonic shifting.
There's tectonic plates in this.
Yeah, there sure are. That's where all the trouble starts.
There's tectonic plates in everything.
Yeah, it's true. In this table.
Exist.
Yeah, absolutely. So, originally Del Toro did not want to shoot this movie for 3D, so this movie was shot like normally, and then he decided to do the After Effects thing, but he really wanted to do it right. We've talked about this a little bit with like The Last Airbender. Remember that dog shit movie? Part of the reason it looks so bad is because they tried to cram like some 3D technology into it. It just made everything look washed out. This movie doesn't suffer from that. They retrofitted for some 3D stuff, but it didn't really suffer from that. But a lot of that was because Del Toro pointedly did not want this movie to feel super dark and brooding. Mm-hmm. He tried to infuse a sense of fun. There's like a nice color palette that cuts through this movie, and it's got a light touch. I think it's kind of brilliant. I think the thing that really sells this movie and really kind of makes it work is that there is not just one type of monster and one type of robot. Every like country is building their own giant robot, and they all have their own like strengths and weaknesses and their own designs, and all of the monsters look different as well. So you get kind of like a Street Fighter sort of hook to it, you know, like where you get to see the different skills from all over the world, and it makes it a lot of fun. The cast they assembled is pretty eclectic and fun. They got, of course, Idris Elba. I always love covering him when he pops up. He's just one of the most like sturdy actors out there.
You mean beautiful?
And beautiful, but I mean just in terms of like a reliable film presence, it's like, you know what? If you get Idris Elba for 5 minutes in your movie, unless you're cats, you're gonna have a pretty enjoyable time. He's always great. I'm a little less sold on Charlie Hunnam. He's at this time he was best known for Sons of Anarchy. I think these days he's popular again because of that Ed Gein TV show on Netflix. He's I don't know. I've always had a little bit of a chip about him because he can be effective in the right role, but I mean his energy just always seems like really smug and kind of mean.
Yeah.
And like
it's great for Sons of Anarchy.
Great for Sons of Anarchy, yeah, but it makes him seem, I don't know, he's just kind of got that like young actor chip on his shoulder.
And this had to have been like filmed between seasons.
Yeah.
Because this was during the run of Sons of Anarchy still.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Now, I think one of the best pulls that they get in this movie is Rinko Kikuchi. All right, so she's kind of the quiet scene stealer in this movie. She plays Mako Mori. She's a Japanese actress who was nominated for an Oscar for her role in the movie Babel. She played the deaf student in that, and that's a really, really good performance. And she gets to really shine here, and she is the inspiration. I don't know, have you ever heard of the Mako Mori test?
No.
Okay, this is kind of an alternative to the Bechdel test, right?
Okay.
So the idea of the Bechdel test, for those who don't know, is like a movie needs to, in order to pass this test, it needs to have two female characters who have a conversation that isn't about men.
Named.
Yeah, exactly. It is
named.
They have to be named characters, exactly, who do not have a conversation about men. And that is a weirdly hard thing to hit.
Weirdly enough, I have been watching a lot of Lord of the Rings lore videos.
Yeah.
And there might be like one scene in all of Lord of the Rings that passes the Bechdel
Yeah,
test.
it's just Rohan. Aowen talks to one of the refugees.
Yeah, to like a child, and then that's like the only moment that isn't notably failing the Bechdel test.
Like it's a weird look up which movies pass and which movies don't. Like it's always stranger than you think. It's like When Harry Met Sally does not pass. Die Hard passes technically, because she has a conversation with a pregnant woman in one scene. But how do you like apply something like the Bechdel test to a movie like Pacific Rim, where thematically it's important that there's kind of only one central female character?
I don't think that's
Listen, hear me out.
I think that's important.
No. It is important. No, listen. In the world of this movie, it's noteworthy because she is the sole female character in this like world of men. Like it's important that she is breaking in.
No, there's a Russian lady who's also a Jaeger pilot.
Oh, that's right, there is. For the majority of it, but they came up with this idea of the Mako Mori test. This was produced on Tumblr, and it's actually been adapted into a lot of like critical frameworks. Basically, this framework doesn't like really apply to Pacific Rim. So like the idea that to pass the Mako Mori test is that the film has to have at least one named female character who has a plot arc that is entirely independent and doesn't just serve to facilitate a male character's story arc, right? She does not exist to be Charlie Hunnam's girlfriend, right? She has her own totally independent story that's happening alongside his own totally independent story. So, like, yeah, we may have one female character that we see kind of in the background or something like that, but like for the character,
not paying attention to the women in this movie.
Granted,
not many. However, there are some that are present.
That's fair. But like, yeah, the idea behind Mako Mori is that she is a bit of an outsider, right? Like she is trying to kind of break into this world when like people don't really want her to, and it's supposed to be about like this oppressive patriarchy on her. And so that's kind of the idea behind the Mako Mori test. And that's something that's just kind of been adapted. And I just think that's always interesting as like a way to approach a film like this. Filling out the supporting roles, we get Charlie Day, Bern Gorham as squabbling scientists. Day was kind of a bit of a surprise casting in this because obviously if you know him at all, you know him as the star of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, playing a very different character than a scientist. And I remember Bern Gorham from, did you ever watch Torchwood, the Doctor Who
spinoff? A little bit,
yeah, he was on that. I always thought he was really good on that. And of course, Del Toro had to trot out one of his favorite actors, Ron Perlman, who in addition to playing Hellboy in 2 films, was actually in his debut film, Kronos. And here he plays a character named Hannibal Chow, named after his favorite historical figure and his favorite Brooklyn restaurant.
His second favorite Brooklyn restaurant.
Second favorite, yeah, that's an even better detail. Like, very silly. So this film had earned pretty solid reviews at the time. I think critics kind of locked into what this movie was doing, and they're like, yeah, no, I get it. I'm meeting it on its level. I'm not trying to take this as Shakespeare. It's just kind of like really fun and in like a schlocky throwback to like 90s blockbusters. But the film actually struggled to find an audience initially. Unsurprisingly, the film was quite expensive. It's about $200 million to make this, and it needed to be a huge hit to break even. The American gross topped out at about $101 million, but fortunately, it was a huge hit overseas, particularly in China. So it wound up doing okay. There's a lot of Hollywood accounting that goes into kind of figuring out how that works, but but it was enough to secure a sequel, which is kind of completely forgotten these days. Pacific Rim Uprising came out in 2018. Del Toro did not direct. He was fresh off of his first Oscar win for The Shape of Water, so he was even hotter than ever. And instead, it was directed by screenwriter Stephen S.
What do you think of Shape of Water?
I have like conflicting feelings on that. I think it's a really weird Best Picture winner.
I really love it. Like, it was interesting. We were having our pitch and physics meeting yesterday, and one of our members really hated The Shape of Water, and I really loved The Shape of Water. I thought it was such a tight, contained story. Like if you like folk tales or folk stories,
Yeah.
like I just really love The Shape of Water, and I like the fact that it's a female led, and she gets to have sex with a goddamn monster, or
It's openly horny.
It's openly horny.
And it's like horny from the female perspective. It's also horny from a disabled female perspective, which is also like something you don't see or is not given any credence to, especially in like a 1950s kind of world like that movie's shot in. It makes a great double feature. If you want to watch two movies starring Sally Hawkins where a bathroom fills up to the top with water, you can watch this movie alongside Paddington. It's a great double feature. Perfect double feature right there. Yeah, but I think that's it's one of those classic movies where like I think I would like this movie a lot more if it didn't win Best Picture. You know, like how sometimes a Best Picture win can kind of harm
Best
it.
Picture is just so like Best Pictures are so boring, and I thought that they actually did something like that. They
It's
picked
weird,
something
yeah.
interesting. It's a weird movie.
Yeah.
And I really like it.
But either way, like the sequel came out in 2018. I never bothered with it. I was a big fan of this one, and I never got around to it.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing that it was kind of mediocre and just never getting around to it.
I watched it because I love robots versus like bad guys or kaiju, but I don't remember anything of it other than I was disappointed with the number of fights.
Really? They
Too
skimped on the
many or
fights?
too few?
Too few.
Yeah. Why would you skimp on the fight? That's the whole reason you're making
That's the only
these
thing I
movies.
remember. So, like, write
they
in
have,
if
like,
I'm
new-
horribly wrong, but
Do they have like new monsters and
Told you,
stuff?
I don't remember a goddamn
okay.
thing.
The fair.
Other
Oh, you
than
really
being
don't remember?
disappointed.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
The thing that I noted was typically when you make a sequel to a movie and most of the cast doesn't return, I am less excited to go see it.
Right.
Like I'm less likely to check out that movie.
Like a lot of the cast does come back in like brief appearances. Like Rinko Kikuchi, Bern Gorman, Charlie Day, they're all there in like kind of deeper supporting roles, but it's mostly about the new characters.
according
It's
to
like
the cast,
John Boyega
That's
is the
the
lead.
only 3 people that return.
Yeah, I think they might be because like obviously Idris doesn't survive it, and Charlie Hunnam is doing something else. I don't know, but yeah. But either way,
He went back to his motorcycle gang now that the world's not in
look,
terror.
he said no. Either way, he wisely said no to the lead of 50 Shades of Grey. He was actually the first choice for that, and he
50
passed.
Shades of Grey is so interesting because the lead actor in that is in this Northern Irish serial killer show with Gillian Anderson.
The Fall. Good show. Good show.
And it's so fucking good. It's electric and it's so good. But like 50 Shades of Grey is so boring.
And you know what's really incredible from him is he is the male lead in Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, and he is funny as fuck in that movie. He's genuinely like he's holding his own against like Kristen Wiig and Annie Momolo, and it's like, dude, that's not nothing. That movie kind of made me give him a second shot, and he was very good in Belfast, which is a movie I don't really care for that much, but he's very good in it, I think. But yeah, no, that's one of those movies. It does kind of taint your career. It's like Robert Pattinson with Twilight, right? Or Kristen Stewart with Twilight. They're like, oh, these are actually really interesting actors who got stuck in these very bad franchises. I never saw the sequel, but that is okay. I think this works as like a one and done kind of franchise. I wish we did that more.
I don't know. I really would have loved to have seen like a really great sequel.
Yeah.
But I just really love robots versus kaiju. I love this. Like I really, really like this movie, and like I just would have liked to have seen more. But again, one is enough. And
they've got kind of the new like legendary MonsterVerse kind of movies sort of filling this gap right now, like our Godzilla X Kong and stuff like that. Like so that's kind of scratching that itch right now.
I have like a really weird feeling about like sequels and extending stuff because I remember I read a ton as a kid, and like the worst feeling that I would have is getting super invested into like a series of books. I typically read like fantasy series and stuff.
Yeah.
And then getting to the end and being like, I got so invested in these characters, and I'll never know how they end, because unless they died in the book, like, it's like, all right, well, where do they go? What happens to them? And so one of my favorite series is the Shannara series by Terry Brooks, because it's like trilogies, and each trilogy is like a generation or so later. So like you get to hear the stories about like the previous characters and what their places in society were and stuff.
Right.
But then also you get a lot of garbage sequels.
Yeah.
You get a lot of just trash. And so the amount of times that I've had something and been like, I really love this, I'm glad 5 years later they made a sequel and they made another season or whatever. And then you watch it, you read it, you listen to it, and you're just like, I wish they never made this.
Yeah, like I don't need it to be
really. It's such a fine line that unless you really do the sequel well, I always want a sequel, but I don't want a bad sequel.
But like Del Toro did Hellboy 2, and Hellboy 2 is infinitely better than Hellboy 1.
It really is.
I always want a sequel, but God, if anything will kill the memory of a franchise for me is a bad sequel that I was really excited for.
Well, a good example, there have been 2 more Hellboy movies since Hellboy 2, and has anybody seen them?
You said I got out at the right time.
I think the last one went straight to video, or whatever the modern equivalent of straight to video is, straight to streaming, I guess. But it's you run the risk of beating it into the ground. It's kind of my struggle with Star Wars right now. It's like a huge Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
There's just so much of it that it feels like homework, and it doesn't feel special anymore. So, like, I like it when there's just, like, we can have one tight, exciting movie that tells a complete story from beginning to end, and, like, we don't need to kind of milk it. And I think that's what Pacific Rim does. Like, I think this movie is really smart in the way it approaches things, because right from the get-go, we're getting a signal to the nerds. We're getting, like, a big flag sent up, because the voice of the giant mechs is GLaDOS from Portal. It's the exact voice.
Yes.
It's Ellen McLean recreating that. That's already sending up a signal. It's like, okay, don't worry. Like, we've got the nerd credits like on lock. We've got our medallions up in the window demonstrating our bona fides to talk about this shit. You're in good hands. It's so jargony. Like, the dialogue is all jargony and all very silly. There's lots of exposition and kind of like silly sci-fi ideas. Like,
so one of the things that I love about all like mecha content is what piloting style is there. Because like some generations of Gundam, they're like in a chair doing things in a chair.
Yeah.
Some generations of Gundam, they're like in a like VR room style thing in like a mocap suit, and whatever they do, the mech does as well. And then you get this movie that's just like that, but 2 of
I actually really like the approach that they have here. It's all like preposterous sci-fi stuff, but the idea is that you need 2 pilots working in perfect tandem,
because
like they're the 2 hemispheres of the brain, right? Like,
control.
It's too big of a thing, like your brain can't handle it. But it makes the 2 pilots like psychically link to each other and also link to their machine. So they're actually feeling pain from the robot getting hit. It gives it some stakes, and it gives it like some character
It's really
drama.
fun, even though it's very stupid.
It's preposterous. It makes no sense at all.
Absolutely insane.
But it does make it more active. Like, right, I think I would get bored if it's just like cutting to close-up shots of people in a cockpit going like, he's on your 6.
That was my childhood.
Power
my guy,
Rangers,
be careful.
Power Rangers.
Yeah, it's a Power Rangers thing. Exactly. Yeah, it's the exact thing that would happen in that. So like you're getting to pay homage to that kind of stuff, but still making it more active. More active and more fun. And I love the designs in this. That
is the most important part of anything fighting robots related. Really, anything robots related is the design of robots.
Like, even so, our main mech that we're kind of like following is called Gypsy Danger, and even that's the most boring design in the movie. I think it's just kind of like a standard issue. It looks the most like a regular Gundam, like kind of a generic hero one. But they're really smart about like slow rolling out what this thing can do. Like, when you get the kind of mid-movie reveal that it has a sword in its arm, that is such like a stand up and cheer, like, you know, drop your big thick glasses on the ground, you fucking dork kind of moment, you know, like it's really I don't know. I had such a I was just really jazzed when he broke out a big ass sword out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That I wasn't even hinted at that they could do that. So that's really smart. And then all of these kaiju that they create are A, massive. B, the texture on them is kind of incredible. Like you can kind of get a sense of what these things feel like, and they feel unpleasant, you know? And they all do their own weird thing. Like some of them spit acid, and some of them are like super strong, and
Some of them
like,
fly.
Some fly. One of them has a knife for a head, and he's called Knife Head. It's like
at a certain point, the first thing you yell at it when you're angry is just what you call it for the rest of your life.
yeah, kind of, yeah, exactly.
One of my favorite was the one with in the flashback, the crab one.
Oh,
I
that
thought
one
the
was
crab
so
one was so
cool.
creepy.
Man, and that I still like every time I watch this movie, that flashback scene upsets me because the little girl that got to play young Mako Mori is so cute and so good at being scared. She seemed like genuinely upset, and it always
she's got
breaks my heart.
all-time like power screamer.
Yeah. Oh, it breaks my heart. I'm like, oh, she's like genuinely terrified right now. But yeah, and then we start like revealing the names of all the characters and all the mechs and everything like that, and you start to realize like, oh, okay, this movie's off the chain. Let's start right off the top. The greatest name in film history, Idris Elba as Stacker Pentecost. I mean, what is even the origin of that name? We never learn. Like, is he really good at Jenga? We have no idea. And is Pentecost a family name? Is that like
Maybe that's his religion.
I guess like so there's like a Fred Buddha out there, I guess. I don't know. It's all deeply silly. Even like the generic hero that Charlie Hunnam plays, his name's like Raleigh. Like it's all, and then we get like Hercules Hansen and all these different like the aforementioned Hannibal Chow. Like it's all deeply silly and hyper stylized in the best way.
Yeah, the names of the robots. You've got Crimson Typhoon, Chernobyl,
Cherno
Alpha,
Yeah.
and Striker Eureka.
Yeah. And so for those who aren't familiar with the plot, the basic idea is that these gigantic monsters have emerged from a rift in the sea, and in order to like stand against them, each nation had to build their own crazy, gigantic, powerful robot. And there's just kind of an ongoing, the attacks start increasing, and it seems to be building to some kind of doomsday event, and so we just need a whole bunch of robot fights strung together. And that's basically it.
In traditional, like, apocalypse style movie where like anything like I guess like military or like government is involved, there's people who are like, no, you know, the giant robots are working, but what we really need is to do something else and throw them away.
Right, yeah. The money. Won't you think of the money? The taxpayers. At
what point do you just break capitalism?
Yeah, never. No.
We're dying.
Yeah.
The civilization is going to hell. We're all going to die, and we're concerned about fake currency because technically it's all made up.
You're describing present day.
At a certain point, you just build the robot and nobody charges money.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, shit, if we don't do this, I fucking die today. So
fair.
Let's make a robot.
Yeah. I mean, the wall, I don't know how they ever thought the wall was going to be effective. Like, so much of this movie is spent with people, like, building walls around the cities, and, like, that was never going to be effective. But
they need the walls from Attack on Titan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you've seen Attack on Titan.
That's an anime I've watched. I have actually watched
Have
Attack on
you seen
Titan.
all of it?
No, I've seen the first season. It's cool. It's cool as hell. I want those little shooty things that, like, that anchor you in the walls and make you fly
gear.
around. Yeah, I want that.
You should watch the rest of it.
Okay, all
Because
right.
it is a ride.
All right. I might have to get back into it. I mean, this movie is definitely steeped in, like, anime. It's definitely steeped in, like, the Godzilla movies of the 50s and stuff like that. It's all building around that. And then there's just a heavy dose of video game in this as well.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about this is they have extended fights, and the fights are interesting.
Yes.
Which is, like, a lot of fights in a lot of action movies are just plain boring. And these fights are genuinely good. They're exciting. They have really nice settings. Sometimes they're creative. You use a boat as a baseball bat.
Yes.
You know?
And I love that so much.
It was such a great moment, like the electric guitars on the score, and he's just dragging a ship behind him. And no, you're exactly right. Like, if this were a Transformers movie, this would be all quick cuts. It would be all shaky cam. Like, we wouldn't have any idea what's going on. This movie has longer takes. We get to like zoom out and really see the scope of these fights. And I was never confused about what I was looking at. You know, it always felt choreographed and intentional, and like it wasn't just like visual noise.
It makes the fights feel more like a slog, where both sides are not doing great.
Right.
Like either side can get the finishing hit at any point because they're both, duking it out. It's a little slower paced. It's not crazy actiony like we're used to. Mm-hmm. And it really makes every single move feel heavier and feel more important.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the main reason why this movie didn't suck.
And the lore is all kind of like backgrounded a little bit. Like any kind of lore and world building is all happening with Charlie Day in like this B plot, right? And it still manages to be propulsive and fun, because he gets to explore like this underworld, and he gets to meet like an organ dealer, and we get to learn a little bit about what these kaiju are and what they want. But it's not intrusive, and it's all and you give that role to the comic relief guy.
Lighthearted.
Yeah, exactly. Charlie Day, he's not playing this like super broad comedic, but he's an inherently funny guy. He's like a funny looking, funny sounding guy, and so and he's got all this energy, and so it does help kind of make that pill go down a little easier.
Yeah, this is like you were referring to earlier, of like low calorie movies where it's like just action, like kind of like I always consider Transformers to be like kind of like a junk action movie of like you're gonna throw it on, you're gonna suspend all disbelief because who knows if any of this is gonna make sense.
Yeah,
it's just robots fighting.
Yeah,
has more weight to it, but it's also not like this isn't a 5-star whatever. You're not. No Michelin stars were involved in the making of this meal.
Right.
However, it was still a wonderful meal.
Yeah.
It's a fun meal that, maybe afterwards you're like, I probably could have eaten something a little better, but it was still a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm never bad. Like, honestly, this might be one of my lower ranked Guillermo Del Toro movies, but I still enjoy the ever-loving hell out of it. Like,
and it's so much easier to watch. Watching Pan's Labyrinth is exhausting. I mean, it's like a perfect movie, but it's exhausting.
It's emotionally draining. Yeah. It's a bleak movie, and it puts you through a lot. Yeah, and same with like a lot of his other movies, but this one is just a confection. It's for a movie with such big, weighty characters. It feels very light, and it feels like everybody involved in this is having a good time and fully understands what movie they're making. Mm-hmm. So like but at the same time, nobody's winking. Like you're not getting that Marvel thing, of like where they're trying to deflate it by like, oh yeah, I know his name is so dumb. Like no, they're everybody's leaning into it, and they're not.
It's like the right amount of like camp and silliness.
Yeah,
which isn't a ton. But, like, they ride that line reasonably well.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we have anything more to say about the movie before we move on to this game? Because if ever there was a movie that lent itself to a game adaptation, it was Pacific Rim. There are so many different ways you could have approached this. This is, obviously, it's a fighting game at its core, because you have a one-on-one, like, robot versus monster battles. You could also do kind of an open world exploration thing where you're stomping through cities and like trying to save civilians. This went with the fighting game route, but in kind of the most boring way possible. So Pacific Rim, the game, it came out in July of 2013. It was developed by Yuki's and published by Warner Brothers. It was released on the Xbox Live Arcade and the PlayStation Network. So the reason why many of you didn't know that there was a Pacific Rim game out there is because this was exclusive to two streaming or like early streaming platforms that no longer exist. Xbox Live Arcade, I think, was discontinued in 2020. And PlayStation Network, I think, in this iteration was discontinued around 2018, something like that.
And it appears that the game was delisted in 2016, so it hasn't been available.
It hasn't been available
for a while. There must have been some form of like rights issue.
But we had a game fairy.
Yes, we had we had somebody who hacked the system. Like
was in the
Zero
Matrix.
Cool. Yeah, you went in there and we were able to find a playable version of this game, which is cool. Like, it was a demo. It was just like kind of the first level with the first 2 characters that you can unlock, but it gives you sort of the gist of what this game is. But I do just want to like pour one out really quickly for Xbox Live Arcade, because I actually really loved that platform, and it was a really important like early venue for independent game developers to kind of get their games released. So that's like that's where we get Super Meat Boy, that's where we get Braid, it's where we get Fez, like all these kind of
Kingdom
early
of Kefling.
Yeah, all these like early kind of indie crossover games that sort of like helped establish this art game movement. It got to come out of platforms like this, and it's sort of a bummer that these are gone. Pacific Rim, the game, is not really in the same category as that. This is much more of a, I'm going to say, very quick and very lazy cash in. It seems pretty cheap, and it is just a one-on-one fighting game, which is an okay way to take this franchise, but like it does feel like leaving money on the table, like not having those elements incorporated with wider scale destruction. Justin, you brought up the game War of the Monsters for PS2 while we were playing this, which is an older game, but it's a much more successful iteration of what this kind of idea could have been.
Fun, and basically, like the gist of that game is like you are in a. It's less like a side-scrolling fighter, like a 2D fighter, which technically this game is a 3D fighter, but it was 3D fighters tend to lend very similarly to 2D fighters,
right?
At least in this implementation. But that is like an open arena where it's like you have.
It's like a Power Stone kind of thing.
You have a handful of square city blocks, and you are just fighting throughout the city.
Yeah.
You can pick up cars, you can pick up antennas and throw them at things.
You can knock down buildings.
You can play as robots, you can play as monsters. And it was such a fun game on the PlayStation 2. And this game had, for what it was okay. Like, it didn't have, like, notable gameplay flaws. It just wasn't
didn't play the
very
monster.
enthusiastic.
Like playing
gameplay.
the robot, I kicked Steve's ass.
Yeah, we have to say this is one of J-Band's.
I didn't remember who switched.
I switched to the kaiju to fight you, and it was so limited. Like, it was so stupid and hard and slow.
They put all the effort into the Gypsy Danger. And not into at least not Knifehead.
We should say this is one of J-Band's more dominant games, I think, that we played so far. You kind of like walked all over me, but I think the idea of this giant robot fighting game like is not a bad one. It's maybe a little bit of a first draft idea. I think a lot of my problem with this was kind of the mechanics that they came up with, like. For the most part, it's like a simple like punch and kick thing, but they limit both of your characters with a power meter, right? That's constantly going down. You need to let your power meter build up.
More in the sense of like electricity, power
like genuinely
meter,
like power,
and less of like technically when you land a hit, you get like a little bit of energy, but it isn't like you are technically building up to special moves. However, it is a constant drain as you're fighting.
Right. And the idea, I'm not talking about power meter like it builds up as you accrue damage. It goes down as you accrue damage, and you need to let it recharge by just avoiding taking hits and avoiding throwing a punch, which means you have to spend a lot of time walking around avoiding fighting if you want to do the cooler shit. But if you dodge, that's like immediately 5% that you lose off of your power. So like dodging is not a really good system either.
The fighting arenas that we saw weren't super inspired or interesting.
No.
They were pretty plain and generic. There was no like environmental interactivity. Which I think would have been something that would have been super fun to add into a game like this.
The movie literally has you picking up a ship and using it as a club, and you don't do that in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the movie you also pick up shipping containers, using them as brass knuckles.
Oh, that was so good. I forgot about that. Yeah, I mean, there's all these different ways you could have made it. We played a little bit of the demo with these first two characters, and then we watched some videos of like looking at other characters. It looks like the Crimson Typhoon, like the Chinese mech, is like the most fun one to play. Like you get way more. It seems like you have way more attacks, but that also kind of speaks to the imbalance of this game. Like that, the Jaegers tend to be much more powerful than the Kaiju, and it's less fun. It should be equally fun to play as both, but it is significantly less fun to play as a Kaiju. You don't really get ranged attacks when you're a kaiju. You don't really get super like the Jaegers get 2 different attack modes. Like you can break out your swords or you can use fists or something. The kaiju don't get to do that. Like so, it just feels a little imbalanced.
We're gonna do something a little interesting. It's called Guess the Metacritic Score.
Oh,
47.
24.
Decently in between.
Okay.
39.
39. Okay, yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah, I think it just it feels underwhelming. It's a budget game in a lot of ways, but this is being made by
no voice acting, at least none that we encountered.
No,
just text scrawls.
Very limited score.
Very limited score, and it's not the score from the film. It's just like kind of like generic library music.
Yeah, straight up like we made a loop of like a couple riffs, and that's our like one track on this soundtrack. Yeah.
It just felt very much like an afterthought, and it's one of those things that should have been such a slam dunk as a video game franchise. The movie is basically a video game. It would translate more cleanly than almost any other game or any other movie that we've talked about on this show. And it just feels like they dropped the ball. And it's worth mentioning, the developer of this game is Yuki's. And if you're an old school like wrestling game fan, they're the ones who made all of like the hit wrestling games of the 90s and the early 2000s. So all the N64, all the PlayStation video, wrestling games, those were all Yuki's. So they do know how to do a fighting game like this and make it entertaining, and that like with a diversity of moves.
It looks like they were also making UFC games, and
they took over the Earth's Defense Force series, which I know we've talked about a lot on this show.
I love that game.
I haven't played the more recent ones that they're in charge of, but they've taken over that series. So like they're not incompetent developers.
It looks like they are doing a spin-off series of Earth Defense Force.
Okay,
not the primary mainline games.
Well, we definitely need like a more serious spin-off series explaining the lore.
Maybe for a special occasion we can watch them and then play Earth Defense Force.
I mean, that's a stretch, but I'm okay with it. Yeah. It's not the biggest stretch we've ever taken on this show.
Have you seen them? Oh, it's so good.
Classic, like it's a giant ant movie from the 50s, but it's like a really well-crafted one. It's like a whole like analogy about like nuclear panic and stuff like that. It's great. Them is awesome.
I mean this game.
Watch that. It happens in the Florida Keys. Not Dan Aykroyd, but John Goodman. And it's a movie monster in the Keys.
Oh, you're talking about Matinee. Yeah, you're talking about Mant.
Mant.
Yeah.
Mant and Matinee. I love
Matinee's incredible.
Matinee is such an underrated movie. If you want to watch just a fun movie, watch Matinee.
It's a throwback to, it's kind of an homage to William Castle, who was this film producer back in the 40s and 50s who would create these incredible gimmicks. So like he did The House on Haunted Hill. And at a moment in that movie when a skeleton emerges from a bath, he would drop a skeleton from the ceiling of the movie theater to scare people. Probably his most famous stunt was called The Tingler. All right. It's a movie about a little alien that crawls to the back of your spine and like zaps you and then controls you. So he put vibrating seats or like vibrating devices in like half of the seats in a theater and didn't tell anybody. So at certain times when the Tingler's attacking, like people would get a zap and they would scream. It's all this really fun gimmicky shit like that. And this really movie's all about kind of John Goodman's playing like a version of him. That movie's a goddamn delight. I love it. It's from the director of Gremlins and Gremlins 2. Anyway, Pacific Rim game. Not a fan, but actually I think that's a good time for us to move on to our rankings. Is Pacific Rim a good movie, good game, bad movie, bad game, or some measure in between? Justin, this was your pick. Why don't you start us off?
I think it is a very fun movie. Like I said before, it's not, I don't think it won any awards. It's not that type of movie.
No.
If you like robots fighting things or if you like monsters fighting things, you'll probably have at least a reasonably good time watching the movie. Definitely recommend. And the game was for what it was, that it was an awkward time for like that scale of game.
Right.
I still think it was pretty mediocre. there's, like you said, there's definitely, if they'd put just a little bit more polish and effort into it, they could have made this something that actually like warranted maybe sequels.
Yeah.
But they kind of dropped the ball on it and didn't really do anything fun or interesting.
Yeah.
I think this is a super fun movie. Great to watch when you're feeling sick, or just great to watch any old time. And then I think the video game is it is fun to play as a robot, but it's so limited. It's like I would never pay money for this. So I would say this is an okay game, but it is fun to play a robot beating up a kaiju. Like, it is.
Yeah.
But you have like 2 moves and it's really lame. But at the same time, I don't know. Please, universe, come out with a better robots fighting kaiju video game.
Yeah, seriously. It feels like money on the table. For me, Pacific Rim, the movie, is a goddamn delight. If you are like me and were kind of like weaned on summer blockbusters of the 1990s, this feels like a little methadone hit of that. This feels like it was intentional. You know, like I think somebody on Twitter recently said, it's like, we didn't make better movies in the 90s. We made better bad movies in the 90s. And I think this is kind of hearkening back to that, but with a layer of polish and prestige that like shows a great deal of love for this era and this genre. And there's just it's a movie that with a lot of love behind it, so it feels good like putting a little love into it. That's where I come down on it. And I think this game is a whiff. I feel like, yeah, they really just kind of first drafted it. I think it's got some real major like design choice errors that were really holding it back even from being a fun version of like what it was trying to do. And I hope somebody goes back to revisit it, because there is nothing I want to do more with my fancy PS5 than punch a realistic looking building into rubble. Like, I want to be some kind of large ape man, and I want to punch a building down into nothing with my bare fists. And that should be easier than ever on modern day technology, and yet nobody seems to want to touch it. So get back to us on that. But Justin, thank you for the choice of Pacific Rim. That was a lot of fun.
Anytime. I figure I've given us some absolutely shit movies.
You've swerved on us a few times. I truly, I have like a short list of things that I think J-Ban might pick. I never know where you're going. Like, I truly like, and J-Ban surprises me more often than not too. But yeah. And I think I'm going to surprise you guys with next week's episode. I'm making like a game day decision. Like, I have a couple that I've been floating in my head that I wanted to like just kind of flop in here for no reason, because we've got a weird random free slot. All right, I'm going to do one that's very weird that I don't think any of us have seen. I'm fairly confident none of us have seen this movie, which is not something we do very often. This is a massive box office and critical disaster that almost killed the career of a major movie star before it even really began. It's an action comedy from 1991 called Hudson Hawk, starring Bruce Willis as I think he's like a high-tech art thief or something like that.
Oh,
I have never seen this movie. I've never seen it. All I've ever heard, I know about it by reputation, but I don't genuinely know what it's about. But it has a Nintendo game based on it. It almost killed Bruce Willis's career, like right after Die Hard, like made him a huge name. And I've always been curious about it. So next week we're talking about Hudson Hawk.
I had never heard of this before.
I'm not surprised. This is my shit. This is my bread and butter shit. Just complete like nothing movies from the early 90s that I need to check off my list. So
when you started saying the name, for a second I was like, Hudsucker Proxy has a video game.
Oh, God. You know, for kids. Yeah. That is one of the greatest movies ever made. I will watch that movie any goddamn time.
What movie?
The Hudsucker Proxy. It's a Coen Brothers film about the creation of the hula hoop, and it's one of the wildest, funniest, best movies of the 90s. It's the best. Well, anyway, we're probably going to talk about a movie that is not the best next week. So join us next week if you want to learn just what the hell Hudson Hawk is. We're going to find out. We'll see you next week.